Hello, my friends. It's Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Welcome to the Pastor's Chat. It's a beautiful fall day. The temperature is just right for human beings. The sun is shining bright. These are the days when I'm glad I'm weather affected. Now, what I mean by that is that as a pastor, you're a pastor in season and out. You're a pastor when you feel good and when you don't. You're a pastor when the days are bright and sunny and when they're dark and gloomy. It's much easier to be a pastor on a day like today. Although I think sometimes it makes it harder on people who are going through difficult times. Because everybody is inspired and lifted up by the day, but we all know there are circumstances of our lives that defy the day. It's a bad day. A day where your parent dies, or a day where you lost your job, or a day where someone that you care about has been diagnosed with a disease that is probably terminal. Those are days that also are not weather affected. We are creatures of this planet, and the beauty of a day just feels like the loving arms of God. It just feels like God reaching to us and picking us up and moving us on. I hear these reports. Over these months since I've started doing this Pastor's Chat, I've said to you, I've tried to confess to you, I don't want to be a broken record, talking always about COVID-19. But it was the shutdown back in April that launched this Pastor's Chat. A new kind of ministry of the High Mountain Presbyterian Church, and in particular, the ministry of my life. Trying to fill the gap of, the absence of you in my life and the absence of me in your life in some regular kind of way. So here we meet. I pretend pastor's office with a chair for you and a chair for me, and a way for us to communicate to each other. My devotional reading today was talking about the importance of something that comes back over and over again in our life of faith, in our walk with God. God calls us to be engaged in our lives. We are created to be engaged. We are to be co-creators. We are to be guardians, if you will, of this beautiful, beautiful garden. And so we're not just here for the ride. We're here to use, the brains that God gave us to participate in helping to enhance the beauty and set it free and to set the groaning of creation. The Apostle Paul says that creation is groaning under the weight of the brokenness that exists in the world. So we're here to engage. And we do that, right? As much as we can. Every time you pull a weed in the garden, every time you make a sidewalk or a landscape, every time you wash a window and let the sun in, every time you put a bag of seed out for the birds, or cast your vote in ways that help to protect and care for the environment. All these ways we're called to engage, we're called to care, to get really in it as co-creators with God. We are. But at the same time, we are called to develop this capacity of letting it go. Let it go. In the devotions, as I was referring to, there's a story of a man who I forget who it was. I think it was a famous person who was trying desperately to find a way of resting better at night. The things that were unfinished in the day would linger in his consciousness and disturb that transition into restful sleep. He's worried about what he didn't get done, and worried about what needed to be done tomorrow, and worried about what was coming that he wasn't prepared for. Perfect time for this story, right? But he fell asleep one night, and in the dream, he was transported to a visual representation of heaven. And in heaven, oh, I forgot to tell you one part of it. So that was his normal routine, and then in the evening of a day, he began to feel like he was getting sick. You know that kind of feeling that you have, that you're going to get a cold and it's going to be awful. Body begins to ache. You know you're not going to be yourself. And you're thinking, I can't be sick. I can't be sick. I can't. And yet you feel the illness approaching. And so he went to sleep that night, and in his dream he was transported to a vision, a representation of heaven. And in that vision, he saw a picture of God pacing back and forth in heaven. And God was saying out loud, "What am I going to do? Harold is going to be sick. What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" It was a great dream. One of the great ways to win in classical debate is to take up the position of your opponent, and it's called reductio ad absurdum. And that is to follow the line of the way your opponent is thinking and take it to its logical, absurd outcome. And that's kind of what this little story is about, that if we take our worry and our investment, our important investment in the things that we need to do, as parents, we are needed by our children. There's no question about that. And as children, we're needed by our parents. No question about that. Life requires that each of us shoulder up to our responsibility and move together. But this thing that attacks us, this sense of the divine, that the world, my children, my parents, my job, can't go on without me. Won't be okay without me. This seeps into the substance of who we are. And it invades our sleep, it invades our humanness, and deprives us of all that's sane and rational in the world. And so, in the dream, this man's mind took him to the absurd conclusion of what he was thinking. That even God up in heaven was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do if Harold is sick. You know that's not the way it is in heaven. You know that in God's economy, in God's world, in God's cosmos, we're given the opportunity to lay down our burdens, to rest, to find a way of giving it up to God, really giving it to God and saying, okay, right now, I'm out of here right now. I'll be back, but I'm going to be sick for a while. I'm tired. I need some space away to be able to think and rethink so I can be productive. Letting go and letting God, isn't that the proverbial, overly used statement? But behind it is a truth that's worth rehearsing 100 times. I've had so many of life's experiences bring these kinds of things right up close to me. Confucius says that the lessons that life needs to teach you will keep coming back. They will keep coming around and around and around, and they will keep recycling until the student is ready to learn. So when I was thinking about this experience of life and how to get rest and how to give the worries of today to God, I was remembering when I was an associate pastor. And I was given the privilege of preaching just once a month. And in that period of once a month, prior to my call in that church, I had been preaching every Sunday. I had been a solo pastor in a church, and every Sunday I was in that what was then a sublime routine of preparing and preaching a sermon every week. And this new call involved a lot of really great youth ministry opportunities. I was away many, many Sundays. And then one Sunday a month, I was called upon to preach in both early and second service. And I just remember the feeling on a Saturday night when I was getting ready to lay me down to sleep, and to get up and be ready. I had my sermon ready. I had it all written out. And I knew as I was going to sleep, I was not going to be able to preach in the morning. I wasn't. And it wasn't just a cold. It was coming of a virus, a stomach virus that was, And I can't tell you. I mean, maybe it was just the effect of the virus, making me feel bad. But there was something else that was there. There was something there. It was the sense of, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to the church? What's going to happen to the community if they arrive? It was a pretty big congregation, 300 people in worship. What's going to happen if they all get together and then I'm not there to preach? I'm not there to do it. And of course, inside me, the part of I'm important and all the rest of it said, oh, it's going to be a disaster. It wasn't. You knew that before I finished the story. It's not how it works. Instead, people were very concerned about me. They wanted me to be better. They were sorry that, I was unable to preach, but they understood people get sick. The world didn't come to an end. The sky didn't fall. But it felt like it was going to. That morning, I called my senior pastor up and told him I wasn't going to be able to be there to preach. And when I hung up the phone, I wept. I wept. Now, again, partly is I was not feeling well at all. And I'll give the virus its due, but also there was something of an invitation from God to me of saying, I'm not going to stay up all night tonight and worry, Lou. It's okay. You can be sick and you can get better. Just a few months ago, it's been probably a year ago now, I had the same thing happen here in the High Mountain Presbyterian Church. I got up in the morning and I was sick. And so I told my wife, Laura, I said, I don't know what to tell you to do. We're a much smaller church now. Our congregation is smaller. I'm a solo pastor here. And I said to my wife, it's time to go to church. I cannot go. I cannot get out of bed. I guess we sent out an email to at that time it was 9 elders, church council members, and said, Pastor's sick. Can you come early enough and we'll figure out what to do? So, I've tried for years to get different people in the church to step up into different shared leadership roles, but mostly they just say, no, it's okay, you do it. But on that Sunday, wow, they stepped up, they filled in, they even managed to preach a small sermon, they did every part of it, and here we are today. Learning that lesson. Yes, Confucius, I know. It'll be back around because it hasn't been learned that well by me. comes back up because, as I said, when we're healthy and we're engaged, we're shaping our reality. We're co-creators of our reality. Our mindset, our thoughts, our things we do with our hands and our feet, we create along with God in this world. We do. It's not a passive role that we're given. And that's good for the good things we do, but it's really scary for the bad things we do without thinking. But then in the middle of it, in this journey, this walk with God on this earth, now I lay me down to sleep. I'm going to leave it to you, my soul, to keep. You do your work, God. I'm going to rest. I'm going to take a break over here. It's worth coming back to. Starts out our week, a week of uncertainty as we still think about the unclear state of our governmental environment, of our life, of the future, of its relationship to this pandemic worldwide disease, how to protect ourselves and how to do it in a way that doesn't seem ridiculous, but really takes responsibility for doing what we can. We do what we can. And the rest of it we have to leave to God. It's a whole summary of all the principles of our Christian living, isn't it? So, my friends, if you're like I am, it's another day, another opportunity. Take a big, deep breath. And having done what we've done so far, having taken responsibility as far as we can, we now turn it over to God. So I pray for you a day of rest, a day it leads into a night of deep sleep, and good graces in the morning. Thanks for coming in and talking today, for listening, for sharing in this space with me. I look forward to seeing how God blesses your life, because I know that God will. I look forward to seeing how God cares for you, even through the times of trouble and difficulty, because I know God will. And I look forward to you sharing with me when those things happen and how we both embrace and sometimes resist all of that. God bless you, my friends, and I will talk to you tomorrow.